So friends, we're going to have a lot to talk about as we move from the investigative phase into a new phase, the Trump trials. Let's talk about that because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, it's about 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I just finished a quick MSNBC appearance with my friend Katie Fang. You know, there are so many legal issues to discuss, to unpack, to break down. Now that things have moved from the investigative phase into a new phase, the Trump trials. And, you know, it's never too early for a little bit of justice, right? So what I want to do is just take a few minutes to touch on a couple of legal issues that we see bubbling up, that we hear discussed by Donald Trump's defense team. Now, let me start by saying it looks like the person who's taking the lead in this go-round, this criminal case against Donald Trump, is a guy named Joe Tacopina. And, you know, when you read up on his background, he represents rap artists. He apparently owns a soccer team. He, you know, sort of has all the credentials you look for in a quality criminal defense attorney. And he's making the rounds on TV, right, defending Donald Trump in the court of public opinion. He'll be singing a very different tune when he's in a court of law. He won't be saying much of what you see him saying now on TV because it looks like, you know, he is deploying both facts and alternative facts to defend his client, Donald Trump. So what I'm going to try to do is redouble my efforts and put out a series of short videos, perhaps more than one a day, trying to take on the legal or pseudo-legal arguments that are being thrown into the public square to try to see, you know, what might stick. Some of what we're seeing, for example, is this complaint that it looks like Donald Trump has been charged with 30 crimes. Oh my God, this is a travesty. They are unduly multiplying the crimes. And people are complaining about how, what, do the prosecutors, you know, bring a separate count in the indictment, charge a separate crime for every check Donald Trump writes? Yes, because that's the way it's done. Friends, I drafted hundreds and hundreds of indictments over my 30 years as a prosecutor. And when you have a defendant, somebody like Donald Trump, remember, let's not call him former President Trump anymore because he has earned a new title, Defendant Trump. That's what I'll be calling him moving forward. When somebody like Defendant Trump is involved in a criminal scheme, like these hush money payments to, you know, bury from the American voters deeply damaging information, you know, to try to retain some credibility as a candidate running for office. When you're involved in this kind of criminal scheme and you're writing check after check after check, reimbursing your co-conspirator, Michael Cohen, who made the payments out of his own pocket, and then Donald Trump was writing him reimbursement checks falsely, fraudulently, criminally, claiming they were business deductions, legal fees. No, they were hush money payments. What prosecutors will do is they will charge each check as a crime, each check as a false business record, among other potential crimes. Why do we do that? Because what we don't do is say, well, you know what? Over the course of a year, Defendant Trump wrote a whole bunch of checks to Michael Cohen, and we're going to dump them all into one criminal charge. No. Why? Well, that would give the defendant the opportunity, indeed the responsibility, to file something called a bill of particulars, saying, you can't put all those checks in one criminal count. You've got to break them all out separately so we can defend against each one separately, so we can be on notice of precisely what we need to defend against. So when a guy like Joe Tacopina, when he's taking time away from his soccer team and representing rap artists, starts to make these inane claims that there's something wrong with charging each check in a separate criminal count in an indictment, those are alternative facts. And I hope people will see through, what he is saying in the court of public opinion, because he will be making very different claims when he's in a court of law. One other thing I want to take on, because I have heard some folks talk about, what about the statute of limitations? Hasn't it expired? Now, a statute of limitations is basically the time frame in which a criminal charge must be brought. So if I committed a crime 20 years ago, but the statute of limitations says if I'm going to be prosecuted for that crime, the prosecutors must bring a charge within 5 years of the crime, or it has timed out. The time has expired. The statute of limitations has run. That is what the statute of limitations is. And people say, well, wasn't this too long ago? Hasn't the 5-year statute of limitations in New York expired such that Donald Trump can't be charged with these crimes? No, because under New York law, specifically New York Criminal Procedural Law, Section 30.10, for those of you keeping score at home, it says that the statute of limitations pauses. It stops running for all periods of time that, quote, the defendant was continuously outside the state of New York. So trust me, friends, the prosecution team, the team that District Attorney Alvin Bragg has working on the Trump trial, this particular Trump trial, has done a deep dive into the law, has applied the facts as they know them, and they have accounted for all of these legal arguments, and they will defeat them easily because Donald Trump was continuously outside the state for much of the time between when he committed these crimes in 2016 in the run-up to the election and the time he was indicted. So people will yell and scream about all sorts of things. This was charged wrong. This violates the statute of limitations. This was a political witch hunt. All of that will be rejected by the trial judge. All of that will melt away. And friends, just to finish up the statute of limitations discussion, remember the Harvey Weinstein trial in New York that was also handled by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office? Harvey Weinstein, the Hollywood mogul who was charged with all sorts of sexual offenses that had happened long ago? Well, the statute of limitations issue was raised by Harvey Weinstein. It was litigated, and even though the offenses had happened more than 5 years ago, because Harvey Weinstein was continuously outside the state of New York, the statute of limitations argument failed when Weinstein's defense team tried to argue it. Happens to be one of the issues on appeal presently. I suspect it will also be rejected on appeal the way it was rejected by the judge in the trial court. So, friends, what we're going to try to do together as we move into this new phase, the Trump trials, is debunk in as close to real time as we can all of these claims, whether based on facts or alternative facts that are offered up, that are thrown into the public square, hoping they will explode and fool some of the people some of the time. And we'll try to keep our eye on the ball, that is on truth, on accuracy, on accountability, and on justice. Because justice matters. And friends, I intentionally use the term the Trump trials, plural, because the first indictment has dropped on Donald Trump's head, and there will be more to come. I strongly suspect and believe to my core we will see federal indictments of Donald Trump for both the insurrection and the Mar-a-Lago documents crimes. we will see Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis indict Donald Trump for soliciting election fraud and a host of other crimes that he committed in Georgia in his efforts to steal that piece of the election. So yes, strap in, folks, because we've got the Trump trials that will be unfolding for the next few years. That's okay. You know, justice doesn't expire. We're here for all of it. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I very much look forward to talking with you again soon.